Kia ora, good morning. I just recorded a whole video and then it turns out it didn't record. Poop. I want to talk about the Tony Lombardi case. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries and it popped up, and I would like to put it to whoever is investigating, if it's still an open investigation, or if I can get the message to the mother that I want to put it to people that he was killed elsewhere and his body was brought home, and then the scene staged to make it look like he had killed himself. The bullet and the bullet, in the headboard, the bullet hole in the headboard in there, it sounds like his body was brought home at the time his mother came home from work. She was waiting for him to come home. She heard the door close 45 minutes after she got home. I think that the killer had moved his body back into the house, stripped him naked to remove evidence of the fact that he was more than likely killed standing or sitting, because they'd be able to tell from the direction the blood went whether he was standing or sitting. So I think they removed his clothes and took his body back to the house and staged it to look like he had taken his own life. It was somebody who knew where he worked and where he lived. It was between his work and where he lived. And then apparently the reports were that he had a broken jaw and cut above his eye. Obviously he got into a fight between work and going home. He met someone and got into a fight with someone who knew where he worked and knew where he lived. And then they took his body back to the house to stage it to look like suicide, including the citation being found in his pocket, which was odd, him being stripped naked. It was to hide the way that he died. And the ticket being found in his jeans was put there on purpose. It was to stage it. It was to cover up how he died, like standing or sitting. But because they ruled it suicide, they didn't bother to investigate it any further. I keep thinking about the clothes. The evidence is in his clothes, the proof is in his clothes, and how the blood... Did they make him take off his shirt and then shoot him? Because they didn't mention it, like he was found naked with the bullet hole. But they didn't mention if there was a bullet hole in his shirt. There can't have been a bullet hole in his shirt if they found all his clothes complete, because that's a bit I'm not sure on, because I'm just doing a snatch and grab. I wasn't expecting any of this to come through. I was just minding my own business, and the coach just started jumping straight in. The evidence is in... if they found his clothes and there's no entry wound or, blood on his clothes, then they stripped him off, because I keep being led to the clothes. The blood on the clothes, covering up evidence on the clothes. There's something to do with his clothing. If there's no blood or anything on his shirt, then he was... they stripped him. This person planned everything down to the detail to make it look like he'd taken his own life. Obviously, he wouldn't have shot himself and then taken his shirt off and lay himself down and stuff like that. They stripped him naked to remove evidence. And there's evidence as to the who, what, where and why in his clothing to do with the blood or lack thereof. The blood and the clothing, the blood patterning, the pooling, the blood, and the clothing. If I could look at the coroner's report, if I could look at the police investigations, I'd know exactly what it is he's trying to tell me. Hang on, I'm just going to have a sip. This person had it planned. They'd been planning it for a while. It was meticulous. And it's almost like him getting that ticket was the excuse they needed to make it look like suicide. It was almost too perfect. They took the body home. The mum came home. They stayed quiet, hiding, until they thought she was asleep or settled in bed, and then they left through the front door. It was said that his car was missing. So either his car never made it to the house because he was killed before he got home, and that's why his car was missing, because she never saw his car in the drive when she got home. She had just always assumed he was at work and he'd be coming home. So there's no proof that his car was even at the house by the time she got home, which would suggest his car never made it back to the house because he was killed elsewhere. But if anybody saw the car, his car in the driveway at the time the mum got home and his body was found, then it would suggest that the person took his car from work with his body in it, got to the house, and then left the house by the same way. But the mother never said she heard his car leaving the driveway or anything like that, because police underestimate a mother's intuition. They need to pay more attention to a mother's intuition. There is a science behind a mother's intuition. And then, ironically, I was watching Most Haunted Unseen, and just thinking about how ironic it was that 20 odd years ago, I was asked to make a demo to be the rival to Most Haunted, and now I'm going to be taking over the whole industry. So the student became the teacher, who ended up the master, because I was obsessed with those shows. It was in watching Most Haunted and all of that, Ghost Adventures and Paranormal State and all that turned me into the scientist that I am now. I was fascinated. I needed to understand the who, what, wherefore, and why. Like the Queen Mary. Once I figured out with the footprints of the water in an empty swimming pool and all that. Once I figured out that was a time slip, yeah, that just was everything to me. So, yeah, what started out as me being just enthralled by these people who were having these incredible experiences ended up me wanting to figure out how and why, to then debunking it all, to becoming the scientist that proves the truth of it all, to now wanting to make shows where people will invite me to look into their unsolved mysteries, their coroner's reports and police investigations that don't sit right, the cases off the beaten track, the voices of the parents and the grieving who feel like the law and forensics and that aren't giving them the answers that they need. And I've been working on this stuff for years, and you know that I've got loads of cases up. But this was a smash and grab. So Tony Lombardi just kind of side-blinded me there. And yeah, I've got to put it out there. His mum, this was in 1990. I mean, his mum should still be alive. So he should still have people alive that can look into this possibility. But it was definitely somebody who knew where he worked and lived. So I would be revisiting boyfriends of the 3 girlfriends and people he had a problem with at work, people who knew where he lived and worked, because they got him straight out of work. So, yeah. So I'm just putting it out there. I'll put links in the description box below. If anything I can do helps, if anything we can do helps, if I can pave the way for the genuine people like me who can, you know, the armchair detectives, the armchair psychics, and that if we can put anything out there that helps in any way, regardless of whether we've got the qualifications or not, someone's bound to get something right somewhere. Statistically, someone's bound to get something right somewhere. So, you know, we're not all going to be right, but we're not all going to be wrong. But if we're all helping grieving families and bring closure, if anything one of us can do solves a case or heals a grieving family's broken heart, gives them answers or gives them closure, then, you know, I'll pave the way for the others to rise up, and they are out there because I've studied them for decades. I know who they are, I know where they are, but they're the overlooked ones. So, yeah. So I'm going to go now and hope this one recorded. I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.